So, thank you, Emma, so much for taking the time to spend a few minutes with me and talk a little bit about the climate marathon and why you're participating, and maybe tell everybody a little bit about yourself and sort of your experience and your routines, and your connections to the natural world and those sorts of things. So maybe we can just start out and why did you decide to participate in the climate marathon in the first place?
Well, in fact, I live in the nature. I live in the Catalan Pyrenees. For me, the wall and especially the mountains are part of my life. So if I can do something in my everyday life, because I train every day, if I can do something for the nature and to explain people how I respect it and how I need it, I think it can be uh, a grain of my little life to put outside and be a little landscape of why we have to be aware of the nature, why we have to respect it, and why we need it. Because I need it in everyday life.
Mhm.
My house is just at 15 minutes from the snow and the big mountains. I don't have a garden in my house, but when I just go outside, I have all the garden of La Cerdanya, or the place where I live. So I need it. I need to do the things in the nature and to love it. And that's why for me the climate marathon, to do my activity for something, it's another motivation, and to show to the people how I respect the place where I live and where I walk and where I bike or run.
Yeah.
It's so important, so important. I'm a 47 years old mother of 3 kids. I just defended my PhD in engineering biochemistry, biomedical last December. And I've been a firefighter for more than 20 years. In fact, I get inside the firefighter service in 2000, and I am still active. And also I did 7 years in the mountain rescue team in the firefighter specialty. So I've been very close always with nature, and also having some rescue people there.
Mhm.
And also I'm an ultra endurance racer. I've been racing for more than 20 years, first in triathlons, duathlons, then some Ironmans, and especially adventure racing. But
Yeah.
adventure racing is all in nature. And after I did some ultra races, and for me, doing 100 miles or 160 Ks in asphalt, it has no sense. In fact, uh, I went to an ultra marathon in asphalt in South Africa, that it's 80 Ks, and it's called Comrades and Never Again.
Uh,
So once and never again. But for me, it's not, it's an effort, but it's not that much when I run 160 in the nature in Colorado, in California, with Western States, with Leadville, with Hard Rock, with Run Rabbit, all these races
yeah.
all over, or with Mont Blanc in Europe, UTMB, where I knew Lizzie Hawker, and I've been running this ultra race 2 times. It's amazing
Mm,
how the nature can give you the energy
yeah.
to
Yeah.
run more than 24 hours non-stop.
Absolutely. Yeah. The few times I've had that experience, there's something about running Leadville, for example, when you're out for many, many hours and you're by yourself, and maybe it's the middle of the night, and it's just it's a wonderful experience, and it's one which I think is one of the reasons I'm drawn to these things, and it sounds like you are as well. That you sort of expose yourself to the world and you become part of the larger world. Yeah, really,
Exactly.
really wonderful. But I think that's an exceptional experience, right? And I think that that's wonderful to be able to share. And I'm curious about sort of most people who are participating in the climate marathon. The idea of running 100 miles or 160K would be very difficult to even think about doing. Is it you know how might we sort of address people who just have limited time, or might live in a city, or might not have the opportunity to step out their door and run into the mountains? Is there a way for people with those sorts of lifestyles to also engage in this experience?
Well, in fact, in my PhD, I just have I have all the data for more than 600 people running, and what happens when they don't train enough, when they don't eat properly, when they don't rest the hours that they need to rest. And one of the conclusions on my studies were, well, some of the conclusions were that you have to be realistic. You don't have to be on the iCloud. You have to go to the ground and say, okay, I want to run a 100-mile. If I don't have 15 hours per week to train, don't do it. If you want to do a marathon, try to have 10 hours per week, and to have a good conciliation with your family, to have a stable situation, not to be really stressed to train for that, to do a good medical check, to do a good nutrition and a good rest. So there's many ingredients that are behind the objective that are there. So you cannot just forget them. And then you have to be really realistic. You have to be with yourself. Okay, what I want to do. I want to do a race that I can be injured, that I will suffer a lot, that I don't have the experience enough. Don't do it. If you want to run or walk for pleasure, just choose an objective that it's affordable, that you can reach it easily, and not putting your body in a compromise and in some unhealthy state, especially in a life that you have to be happy, you have to be calm, you have to be with your family, okay? And imagine there's some people that they put the UTMB, okay, they put the Mont Blanc ultra race, and everything it's focused on that, and then they have any gastrointestinal problems or they have any issue during the race, and they said, oh my goodness, all my fights with my wife or my husband, with my kids, the price of the inscription, all the times that it's too much sometimes for the people to reach something. Don't do it in such difficult effort. Do the things easily, and choose goals and challenges that are in your hands, that are easy to do, that it's not difficult. And for sure you need a medical check before deciding any competition to do. You need to know how is your heart, how are your kidneys, is your weight enough, or you have an overweight. Sometimes people is running a marathon with too much kilos, and this is a risky activity then. So there are many things to be aware of before choosing some kind of races. And above all, for me, the main objective is to enjoy the activity, to be grateful, to be there, like, wow. And only training is that. You enjoy training outside, and then okay, that there's the goal of the competition. You have this objective. I have this race, this adventure racing outside, so you have an objective. But the way that you reach this objective, all the little things that you do to be fit there, it has to be enough. If at the end you cannot race or you have any problem, it has to be enough, the way that you reach this objective.
So sometimes I find, and thinking about the climate marathon, it's a month long, right? And so people are challenged or invited to do 42K per week or 26 miles per week, in celebration of COP26. I can imagine that, and for me this is true. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning and I say, oh well, I'm going to go run 5K or 10K this morning before I go to work. Sometimes it's very easy not to do that. It's easy just to stay at home and say, oh, I'll do it later, or maybe I can just do more tomorrow. And so sometimes motivation can be a real challenge. I wonder if you ever have challenges with being motivated to go do training or to go outside and get exercise.
I'm always motivated. Perhaps it's my personality, and the challenges are perfect, and I think it helps many people. I don't need them to be motivated to get outside, because my motivation is to be fit, is to build my body and to arrive to an elder life with a high quality of life. and also where I live, that it's a privilege to in a 2 minutes walk. I see trees, I see forest, I see the valley, I see the river, and I go with my dog, and sometimes other dogs they come with me, and it's amazing how I can experience all this. So I don't need to be really motivated, because the motivation is outside and also inside me,
Mm.
because I want to be healthy with myself. So it's part of my normal day life, and I hope my kids also they see me and my husband that for us do activity every day.
Yeah.
It's a normal issue. It's a
Yeah.
normal thing.
Yeah.
So like drinking, eating, or whatever. And the day that we don't do anything, the day that we cannot do, perhaps because we have a lot of work at home or in the businesses, or when I work in the fire service, or when it's too bad weather, we are mad, we are sad. And sometimes the kids ask me, Mommy, today you didn't train, isn't it? And I said, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, because you are really irascible. You are really, you are angry all the time. Yes, you're. It's true, and it's kind of a, well, there are hormones that are all the time outside when you do sport activities, and the endorphins exist,
Yeah.
and the endorphins give you a very good sensation, even if it's rainy or snowy or it's too hot. But when you finish the activity, even if it's only 30 minutes or 15 minutes, it doesn't matter. You feel much better.
Just hearing you talk about that is inspirational. I want to get up and go for a run right now. Maybe I will after we finish our conversation. But I'm wondering the other side of that too. I mean, it's very inspirational for ourselves, and it's motivational, and it brings us joy and well-being to be outside. Is there a way that by participating in something like this, or by doing activity or sport, we can also contribute to nature? Thinking about the impacts of climate change, and I'd be curious to know, if there are any impacts of climate change around in Catalonia where you are. But that's a separate question. But also, do you find that there are ways to contribute to the natural world, or our understanding of nature, through sport and through activity?
I think it's the consciousness of everyone that we are doing something for ourselves, but also for the nature. Like, for example, there are some different philosophies. When I go to the mountains, I don't want to see any paper in the ground. And when I see it, I take it with myself. So I just always be respectful with the ground where I doing my activity. At the same time, when I see someone that is not doing a good thing, I try to tell him. Sometimes they just shout me and okay, but because I don't want to judge anyone. But when I see something that I don't like, I argue about that. But being with nature, I think you take consciousness when you go, for example, to the supermarket, and you see what you can buy. Okay, you are more you have more consciousness to buy the things that are near home, that it doesn't they don't need to be by an airplane, they don't need to be there with a contamination of the air, and how they take it, even with the meat and all the plastic bags and everything that can hurt the environment that you are training every day. You feel more consciousness that you can do something, even if it's really little, about avoiding buying things that are outside of your area. Why you don't buy things that are really close? Also about avoiding buying things with plastic bags, just to buy kilos and to take it by themselves. Sometimes it's really difficult when you go to a supermarket to avoid plastics and to be okay today. Let's buy the thing. Sometimes they don't give you the opportunity, it's very difficult, but you have it inside. You have the feeling about inside. Or for example, with my kids, and you say, okay, you are taking aerosols, you are taking something that it can go to the ozone, and it can hurt the atmosphere. Don't buy this again, buy another thing. Or the other stuff for women, that what we use every month with our period, you can use a cup, and then you don't put any contamination in the rubbish. Many things that are linked with the nature.
Yeah.
So in your normal life, in your everyday life, you can do little things that can contribute to a better nature health. And
Mhm.
it's difficult sometimes because the big companies don't give you much opportunities to be ecological doing, or whatever. I don't know the word exactly in English, but you have to try. You have inside yourself that if something hurts the nature where you are living, you don't want to contribute in that. For example, another example, when I buy some cans, even if it's beer or if it's some soda, and they go with these plastic rings, I always break these plastic rings, because I know that if they go at the end to the sea, some fish can be completely killed by themselves. And I tell my kids also, and they do all the time this. And also we have a soda machine. We don't buy soda drinks. We have a machine that put gas in our water. So I'm trying to buy things that can avoid more contamination stuff. So it's or making things at home. I do my bread myself. I do the yogurt. I do try to do things at home that you avoid all the containers that
Yeah.
are plastic ones and all these things. You can do this. You can make little steps. And in the Pyrenees, as you ask in Catalonia, what are the people doing for having more respect with nature? I think that it's more than a country is the person. The people who lives in the mountains, they know that it's their way of living, that where they live, it has to be clean and it has to be okay. And also for the tourists, many people lives from tourism, so they have to be aware of putting everything in the place. But the philosophy of the politics, sometimes I would love to see more actions
Yeah.
against the people who is hurting the nature, and more actions motivating the population and people to do things for the environment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them at all. It's difficult.
Yeah. It sounds like cultivating these really strong relationships with nature, as you're describing, through just being outside or doing different activities. They don't have to be ultra endurance sports.
No.
It sounds like if more people do this as individuals, right? You're describing it comes down to the person and the individual choices and what you teach your children. That is a good way to maybe make larger national changes, or larger changes in government, or larger changes in policy. And I think that's the idea behind activities like the climate marathon, or a lot of activities around climate change and climate change education, is that everybody has a small role to play, and it may not seem that significant. If you, Emma, decide to not use one piece of plastic, that doesn't make a big difference. But if everybody does that, then that has a significant effect more
Exactly.
globally. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint, I think.
Yes,
Approach
exactly.
climate change.
Step by step.
Yeah.
You when I do an ultra marathon, I never think about the finish line. I never think about the 160. I am thinking about the first 10 Ks. I have to do the first 10 Ks, then the next ones, then the next ones. Of course, when I am in the middle, when I have 80 Ks in my legs, I say, okay, now it's the counting down. It's
Yep.
just half, the other half. But step by step, if I have to think when I'm in the start line that I will be running more than 24 hours non-stop, I will say, oof, I don't start, my goodness. I will,
Yeah.
it cannot be this inside us. So it's the same philosophy. Do tiny things step by step, and especially with our kids, with the school. We did many things. In fact, in where I live, in La Cerdanya, we built a cooperative, a community of producers and farmers that we are elaborating our products. In fact, I collect from the forest rose hips, and I do some processed, I do jam, and I do some superfoods, and I do some different things from these rose hips that we harvest in the forest, and now we plant it in some lands. But we build a community here, and we show the products that we can do from the area. And we visited the schools, we visited the supermarkets, we visited the little shops, just to the people be aware of what we can make and they can consume, and they don't have to buy apples from Canada, and they don't have to buy potatoes from other parts, because in La Cerdanya, where we live, we have these products. If we don't have other products, it's okay, you can buy the others. But if we have here these products, please don't buy potatoes from Chile if we have potatoes from Catalonia. And it's this feeling, that respect for the people who is there, the land, the nature, and the products that they are built in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, every individual making that choice, it's a step by step. I think that sentiment of going step by step and using the marathon as kind of a metaphor for our approach to ecology and climate change. Yeah, that's I think a great way to finish up our conversation. So thanks so much for taking the time, Emma, and good luck on the rest of the climate marathon.
Thank you.
And it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks. And for me also, I'm proud to be part of this project, and it's a pleasure to just give every day some kilometers to the climate marathon.